sat in the kitchen of his fraternity house, reading. He was working on math. It was another late night. Of course, every night's a late night. When you're a zombie...
Okay, how to make a latex mask in one day at your kitchen table. Using these supplies, you can create a professional quality mask for about $50 US. Introduction. The biggest barrier to latex mask making for your average high schooler / costume enthusiast / college youth / parent making stuff with the kids is the casting process. Casting is the best way to translate detail into latex rubber. But you need to make a sculpture, make a mold of the sculpture, pour latex into your mold, cure, then color your molded item. So to simplify the process, we're not casting. We're going to be layering. So this is a low-cost process that is doable at home. The clay mold form is recyclable by adding water, and you don't need a whole bunch of supplies or space to work with. I first used this process in middle school, on the bathroom floor, and I came up with this mask, which I paired with some inflatable bat wings and a creepy 70s high-collar dress for a ghoul costume. Supplies. The sculpture you're going to put latex on will be made out of pottery clay like Amico or Laguna brand. For the top of the head, you're going to want a wig or a ball cap. From your local theater shop, you're going to want liquid latex, such as Mayron or Ben Nye brand. And most towns do have a store like that. Everett has Display and Costume. Buffalo has George's. So hunt around, make some phone calls, and find a local business, not just off some internet warehouse. You're going to want dish soap for saving your brush from the ravages of latex, acrylic paint to color your liquid latex. You're going to want a hairdryer, not a heat gun. A heat gun will burn your latex. A heat gun will burn your latex. I'm saying you can try it, but seriously, go for the hairdryer. And you're going to want one paintbrush of decent quality found at the oil and acrylic section of your local art store or craft supply store. And texture and embeddables to put in the latex to alter its surface so it's not just smooth, so it's knobbly and cool looking. And finally, a piece of string to measure your wearer's face. What not to buy. Oil-based paints. Oil weakens latex, and if you mix oil-based paint into your latex, it will melt and get gooey. Craft store latex. See this stuff? The arts and crafts molding latex? It reeks of ammonia. I can't even open the lid in the store without choking a little bit. This is not what you want on your face, and it's certainly not what you want to be cooking with a hairdryer. I would never use this around my birds or in a room without powered ventilation. There's a personal note here on my soapbox. From nylon resin to epoxy products, U.S. craft stores are increasingly carrying products that are excellent for object fabrication, but also horrible for you to breathe or absorb into your skin. So whenever you're using new products, think about safety. Planning. You start by sketching your mask design. You can use a paper and pencil or a computer art program. I'm using Art Rage. Or you can make a small model out of clay. You can even draw a life-size mask on newspaper or paper towels, anything that will help you plan your design. So here's an hour of planning condensed into 30 seconds. After you have a theme, in this case zombie, consider who will be wearing the mask. Ben is wide and stocky, so the mask will be wide and round-shaped. So then I think, what environment will the mask be used in? A movie set? The mask I'm making is just a general costume mask, so it has a general setting, kind of vague colors there. So now I'm going to lay out the basics, color and shape. And I decide on the basic features. I want an empty eye socket with an eye hanging out of it, and the mouth will be closed, and the skin will have an embedded texture. Then I detail the features. I'm going to make it shiny with wet gore dripping from the eyes, mouth, and nose. The eyes will be bloated, ready to burst with decay, and the lips will be sewn shut to keep the zombie slave from speaking. The green, decayed skin will hang in flaps along one side, and I'll embed black thread along the top of the eyes to represent decaying eyebrows. Last is the wig. I may change this based on what's available at the local stores. With all the details considered, I then think about whether or not the mask is practical. Where will the eye holes be? Can the wearer breathe easily? If there's not a lot of ventilation, the mask will become slimy and wet inside from the moisture in the wearer's breath. I also considered what supplies I'll need to create each feature and whether or not my plan is realistic. With the design now done up, I measure my wearer's head.
Hey, Ben.
What are you doing?
Hey.
What?
Okay, so I need you to take some floss.
I'm already brushing my teeth.
Yeah, get some floss.
I don't trust you.
Okay, now take it. And Fluff, just enough to measure from one end of your ear to the other across your eyes.
Like that?
No, start from one ear. Start from one ear. Okay. Alright, now rip it where it meets your other ear. Like where your ear starts. Yeah, right there. Okay, good. Okay, now we're gonna do that like 6 more times.
What?
There are other ways to measure, but unless you want to creatively misuse some kitchen tongs as calipers, go for the string. Go from the top of the forehead to the bottom of the chin, from ear to ear at the top of the nose, from forehead to the top of the nose, the length of the nose, and how far the nose sticks out. By using the measurements as a guide, you can make a mound of clay that is the same shape and size as the wearer's face without having to put any clay on their skin. Make sure you label your strings by writing on pieces of tape. Sculpting. You want to work thick, but if you make the clay shape hollow, it may collapse and crack on you. So we're going to make it supported. By crumpling sheets of newspaper and placing clay over the top of the newspaper, it's going to hold its shape without falling into itself. The sheet you make your face out of should be a solid piece that's rolled or pounded flat. If it's a bunch of little pieces loosely mushed together, it'll crack as it dries. Check your face shape against your measurements. Add and push in the clay until your sculpture meets your measurements. Make a dent where each eye roughly is. Once your face shape matches your measurements, build your mask by adding clay to create the features you want. Never remove clay or make more indents. You want to dry the clay until it's shiny and darker, called leather hard, but not totally light colored and dry. This way, the water in the latex will be drawn into the drier clay. By drying the clay a little bit first, the layers of latex will dry much, much faster. If you heat up the clay until it is light colored and hot to the touch, by using the hairdryer, the latex will dry immediately, and you will not be able to spread the latex around the surface of your sculpture. So you want it drier and smooth, but not light colored and hot. Here you see that by adding heat too quickly, cracks or imperfections in your sculpture will split open as the clay dries. Clay shrinks when it dries, so you can see it pulling away from the center of the crack. Latex. Protect your paintbrush with dish soap. Before applying latex with the brush, lightly coat the brush in dish soap, then wipe away the excess. This will keep the latex from sticking. I'm applying the latex with very smooth brush motions. I don't spread the brush bristles or try to work the latex into the surface. I only go over each spot once per layer, or else I risk pulling up and warping the latex. I'll add enough layers so that the mask will be at least the thickness of a dime. I hit each layer with the hairdryer, so each layer takes about 10 minutes to apply and dry. Yes, Rudy, say hi.
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 Okay, can I go back to this? Thank you. So each layer takes about 10 minutes to apply and dry. If I want fine detail, I'll add them to the colored layers by building up latex, instead of fine detail from the surface of the sculpture as though I were casting. After I have a nice thick base layer that's dry to the touch, I mix colored latex and paint my surface. When adding paint to latex, you need to know how much paint to add. I made little samples, dabbed them onto a plate, hit them with the hairdryer, and labeled them with a dry erase marker as a reference guide. Because the latex I'm using has white pigment in it, it takes much more paint for me to color the latex than an uncolored latex or flesh tone latex. After the first colored layer is done and dry to the touch, it's time to add any embeddables. To make string stay in place, I dip the end of my string into colored latex. The latex will bond to itself, so once the hairs are dry, I can push them into place with a skewer, toothpick, or pencil. Off to the side, I make my skin peels, and a pink peel will roll up to attach to the eyeball. I paint them on something completely smooth, like tinfoil or a china plate, so they can be peeled away easily. The latex will not bond to acrylic, so don't try to stick latex to any paint you've painted over the mask. And so then I paint on my effects. I make the eye realistic, I make clear acrylic snot, and a little color here and there to make it look authentically disgusting. I can hit the whole thing with a hairdryer to dry it up fast, and then it's time to cut out the eye holes and attach the wig. First, cut open the breathing holes with scissors. Once they can breathe, have your wearer place the mask on their face and use a marker to show where their eyes are. Then cut out small eye holes to start, have them wear the mask again, and cut the eye holes to be a perfect size. While they're still wearing the mask, you should have the wearer don their wig or bald cap. Mark where they should be attached to each other, and then attach by sewing, liquid latex, or hot glue. And so, the mask is completed. Now this thing won't last forever, as it's natural latex. In industry, they chemically treat latex rubber so it's permanent, vulcanized, producing stuff like car tires, which never ever break down. But you can extend the life of your mask by using talcum powder inside it to absorb your skin oils, and keep water from leaching into the latex. You can also keep your mask in a cool, dark place when in storage. Don't let the mask fold onto itself, it'll bond over time. And the latex mask in this photo lasted for more than 6 years before it began to soften and get sticky to the touch. And that was without talcum powder and being used pretty intensely with sweat, water, and sunlight. The end.